Today we're going to take a very close look at crochet hooks. If you thought there was a lot to know about knitting needles, just wait. Crochet hooks are far more complex. We'll start with the anatomy of a hook. The head or point is the part that pokes through the stitches. The neck or throat is where the yarn rests on the hook as you poke it through. The loops rest on the shaft, which determines the size of the stitches. There's a thumb rest or grip that is held with your thumb and a finger or two as you maneuver the hook. The handle is where your hand rests, providing leverage as you move the hook. Taking a closer look at the head, there's a mouth or bowl that holds the yarn being moved through the stitches. And the very tip of the head is referred to as a lip or nose. That keeps the yarn in the mouth while forming the stitch. Just the anatomy of a hook is already more involved than knitting needles, and we're just getting started. There are two basic types of crochet hooks, inline and tapered. With inline hooks, the head is in line with the shaft. The shaft will be the same width as the neck. It has a deeper mouth, and the head is usually a bit more pointed. With tapered hooks, the head extends out past the shaft. The neck will be tapered, making it more narrow than the shaft. The mouth may be less deep and the point a bit more round. Is one type better than the other? Not necessarily. Some attribute inline hooks to achieving a more even tension since the shaft is a consistent size, and the pointier head may poke through the stitches a bit easier. The deep groove of the inline hook, though, could cause you to twist the hook a little bit more in order to complete the stitch, and that can slow you down just a smidge and possibly contribute to wrist pain. Tapered hooks are considered a bit faster to use, easier on the wrist, and some like the less pointed head, especially with splitty yarns. If you're having trouble with uneven tension, you might consider switching to an inline hook. If you're experiencing wrist pain or splitting stitches, try a tapered hook. Most of the hooks we sell are the inline hooks. They tend to be the most popular. Tagu bamboo hooks are inline hooks with a deeply grooved thumb rest. Likey are also inline hooks with the shaft extending across to the handle at the same width without an indented thumb rest. Lantern Moon, also an inline hook, has a slightly grooved thumb rest. You'll notice its head is less pointed than with the Tagu or Likey. Knitter's Pride is the only tapered hook we currently stock. It features a rounded head and its ergonomic handle makes it a popular choice. Prim is also an ergonomic hook, but unlike the Knitter's Pride, it is an inline type hook. Now that we've taken a look at the anatomy and types of hooks, let's talk sizing. If you thought knitting needle sizing was confusing, well, crochet hook sizes are even more crazy. Crochet hooks can have up to 3 size designations. The US letter size tends to be the most common, A, B, C, and so forth. Just like US needles, these designations did not necessarily correlate to a constant measurement. The millimeter size, still the most accurate in that it designates the diameter of the shaft in millimeters. There's also a US number size. Although we don't see this referenced as much, it continues to pop up on packaging and patterns, and it corresponds with the same size designations as US knitting needles. That's not confusing at all, right? For example, a size H hook is a 5 millimeter. You will sometimes see it labeled as size H/8. A 5 millimeter knitting needle is also a size 8, hence the 8 designation. It has less to do with knitting needles and more to do with the wacky US sizing system. Just like with knitting needles, these US letter and number sizes do not encompass all of the sizes of hooks available. There is not a corresponding size for a 4.5 millimeter hook or a 7 millimeter. Therefore, you will find 2 size 7 hooks on the shelf. One size 7 is the 4.5 millimeter, with the 7 being the US number size, but there's no letter size for this. It falls between a G and an H. There's also the 7.0 millimeter size. If you really had to keep a close eye out for the little millimeter at the end of the 7, I've seen this referenced as the size K plus hook. I guess since they can't append the K with a number like US 10.75, they decided to simply throw a plus at the end. That's just clear as mud. And when you get into the larger hooks, you're going to find a lot more inconsistency in sizing. One company's size O or P could be a completely different size than the others. So always use the millimeter sizing as your guide and don't simply rely on the letter size. We currently don't stock these, but the tiny steel hooks are still sized according to the standard wire gauge system. The size numbers get larger as the hooks actually get smaller. So they run in the opposite direction as most needle sizing. And this just throws even more numbers into the mix. So you can have a steel size 7 hook, a US size 7 hook, which there's no letter size for, and then the size 7mm hook, also not a letter size for. So all these needles are a size 7, but as you can see, completely different sizes. We're not even going to discuss British hook sizes. They're not commonly referenced, and I don't want to confuse anyone. On a side note, if you are using a British published pattern, keep in mind that their stitches are totally different than everyone else's. A British double crochet is what we call a single. A triple is a double. Rowan and Sirdar crochet patterns, which we carry, those are all written with British terminology. Conversion charts, super easy to find online. They're not that hard to convert. So when in doubt, just carefully read all of the pattern instructions.